We're back. I was doing some digging around yesterday and decided that I want to sort of rebuild the player store, not using a gen server. I want to use um, just processes. And then because right now the gen server, if you're fetching the player ID or the player from the PID or socket, it'll actually block, and we don't want that. So let's take a look here. So what I'm going to do is actually just going to copy over the game server. Oh, gotta go back a couple more directories. Live game, backend, libs, game server, state player store. And actually what we need to do is recursively copy. I'm going to put that into, where are we? Lib game server. Is that so? Lib game server. So now if we look at lib game server state player state. So this is our player store. This is what we're going to fix up. What we're going to do is we're going to test the game server, which we need to make directory state test game server state player store test exs. Okay, so now player store test do end use x unit case, and we're going to async true. The goal is going to be to have all of our tests async true. And so what we're going to do is we're going to import mocker if we need it, and we don't need to start link anymore. So what we need to do is we need to store the player. Now let's take a look at the player here. This is our live game backend. So we're just going to cd to live game apps. There we go. And then lib game server models player. Right? So that's our player. So we'll know our player PID. And what we could do too is we could actually grab our socket. Why not? That'll be no. Okay, so we'll know our player name, PID, and our socket, and that'll save us a lot of effort. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to get player by PID. And we're also going to need to store the player test. Store the player. Now we can do setup, and we're going to create a socket, and we're going to create our PID. But what we need to do, I think, just thinking through this, I'm wondering, let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can pull this off. So this is going to return the socket, right? And this is going to be a map of socket. This is going to be a map as well. Socket. And I'm just going to remove that for now. Should store the player, so we'll know our PID at the time. And I want to see if we can actually mock a process. And what we're going to do is look at our documentation, Elixir process, and what we'll need is, we know ourself, right? Every test has a unique process when running asynchronous. And we could just use that, and we call that our process, and we could store the, so let's not mock it yet. If we say process, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take away this, and I'm going to use injector, and we're just going to kind of fix this up a little bit. So we're going to keep our API. Whoa. And continue this way. So kind of get our old implementation out of mind, or out of sight anyways, and out of mind I suppose too. So just kind of do some cleanup here, and the private, we don't need those. Oops. We definitely want to keep our API intact. And what's there? Remove player. We did forget a do over here. Get all players. And this one probably won't be possible. Maybe it will, who knows. So we need to store the player, and let's see what happens if we inject process. And what we'll need to do is, if we mock the process, and then we intercept, so we need to create a player. And is it process.self? So, let me think. Let me think about this. So if we use self, maybe we don't mock the process. For now, okay. Store the player. So we got to create a player. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a player, and we need to alias game server model player. And that's going to be an ID, so ID is 42, and our name is foo, and our PID is nil, and our socket is nil, like so. I'm going to pass in the player. think for this one we only need the player. And we need to call player store store player. Now we're going to need to be able to fetch it. So we can do process where underscore is, no. And we'll say the name of the player, we use the ID of the player. We'll do player.id. In fact, we'll do player underscore player ID is equal to self. Okay. Also, we should be able to do process get, right? Get the key. And the key will be player as an atom. And that'll equal our player. That seems very storable. So let's run it. Test game server store state player store. Player store EXS line 10. Expected key value pairs in a map got okay. Models. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're also going to spec this at the same time. We say store, and we're going to need a player type, which we were just doing this. I just want to do a quick refresh. If we do models battle unit, we'll see that we need to create a type. So we'll say type player is going to be a game server models player. And so if we call store on player, we'll just return okay. How's that sound? And now we can just return okay. So let's go back to here where the live game server, which is our old one. Mix dialyzer. Okay, so it is get all players. So we've got a ton of stuff in here that it's trying to dialyze. Command handler. Inject will never be called. So that may be something I need to fix in syringe. The good news is I don't see the player store in this list. So we'll continue on. So it's kind of a bummer that unit move, unit created. Let's take a look at unit move, lib, game server, handler, the input, no, output, unit move, and what we could do is pipe this to result. So get command ID is spec get command ID, and that's going to return non-negative number. Okay, and then spec write is going to get a stream, which I believe would be a port, and a unit created. Actually, it's not a unit created, it's a unit move. So it would be it's up here, type unit move is going to be a game server handler output unit move. So we're going to pass in a unit move, and we're going to get back any. And so our result, def, and maybe we could just do this. It's going to return OK. So def p result, actually we'll call it status, and I believe this will be the stream, and this is going to be spec status port, and let's see here, me socket. Socket stream, and okay, so this is our OK according to that, and we're just going to return OK. Actually, you know what? Easier enough. We don't need to pipe it. We could just return the same thing, which I like better. This is going to be error term. So here, if we run the dialyzer, we need to do elixir type spec non-neg. should be, we had this earlier. Maybe it's integer. Non-negative integer. So if we look at here, and it looks like it's saying it's going to match the unit move ID. So I wonder if this will command ID. I wonder if that'll actually match. So that is kind of a bummer. Fetch. So unit move, that one, this spec passed. This one here is pretty weird. So def status, okay, and this is going to return do okay. And if you do here, this is error term, error term. This is actually help us status. Line 17 says produces value or okay, but it's unmatched. So if we do this, unit move, so yeah, that does do the trick. So if we do look at the status, so what we can do is we can do def p send, and that's going to be data, and that's going to do all of our stuff, and spec send. Is there something for binary? Non-empty list. Size is 0 or a positive integer. Doesn't really comment on this, so and we'll need length. Non-negative integer. And this will return okay. Maybe string? No. Yeah, we'll still need a string. And if we do put and here stream data length status. We'll need the port. Right. So now if we do let's do this one here. We'll do equals send stream unit created dot unit ID and 4. If we could just do, this is type, non-empty list, empty list, and this will be the type. Missing something. Oh, there it is. Line 27 seems to be size is 0 or a positive integer. Okay, so if we do size 0 positive integer, and then unit is an integer from 1 to 256. I wonder if we did this. So it seems to be having an issue with type that is undefined. So I guess we could just do binary. Let's see if that'll do the trick. Non-neg There we go. So line 20 on unit move is not on the list anymore, so that did the trick. So here, 1, 2, 3, unit created position X, position Y, time D3, and then what we want to do here is we want to require logger, and then we're going to and I think we can actually do logger dot warn turn. Unit to move, line 16 is our last one, saying success typing is port. I'm not sure what it's trying. And valid type specification. Under unit move right, success typing is port, atom or position X. So here, we could just do that. And then this is going to be send stream get command ID one. Success typing unit move line 25 here. Send 3 success atom or bitstream or function or I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me here. Send the success typing is atom or bit string. I wonder if we do okay here. I don't agree with you, Dialyzer. Is port actually a type? Yeah, port is a type. So let's change this to unit move bar here for clarity. And this is only going to get us better at this. So unit move line 34 produces value of OK or error, but the value is unmatched. If we do OK, unit move. Okay, so we got lots going on here. So line 16 says the specification for this states that the function might also return OK, but its inferred return is none. So is none actually a thing? So if we actually do invariant OK, inferred return is none. Right 2 has no local return. I wonder if we do this. If we do none. Okay. The line 18 says it breaks the contract. So this is going to be data. And this is not going to be binary, it's just going to be, is it just integer? Integer. So that is better. So unit move 16, and valid specification for this is port atom for that. I wonder why it thinks that. Let me put this back to okay. And 16. Invalid type specification for right. Success typing is, I think one of the options is atom. Atom or that. So we say atom or that. Yeah, it shouldn't. So it was okay with putting atom in there, so somewhere along the lines it's thinking, and computers don't think, so it's pretty impressive, that something's passing an atom to it. So is there a unit move. And sets the type spec. I wonder why it wants to. Why it expects that. Port or atom. Unit move. I don't know why it wants to think there's an atom in this. Maybe because it's looking at this? Because this is an atom. The struct is an atom. Is struct a thing? Yeah, struct is here. So if we just do struct and see what it thinks about that. So it's okay with that. So we could make this an atom or that. So we have a lot of type specking to clean up, but that's kind of a viewing into just really tightening up our code. So back to our player, we never actually got to finish this guy off, so it's kind of a little bit of a tangent there. But if you look at player store, alias game server state player store. Oops. So argument error, or is 1. And it's saying the name is expecting an atom. So what we can do, that's an easy fix here. So this is expecting an atom, so we give it an atom. There we go. So here, this is where our test is actually failing. So at this point, we can do process put. So make sure we got this right. Process put. Our key is going to be player, and then self is our PID, and then process register self under player underscore player.id, and let's use correct usage of the language. So we're still not fully correct. Oh, actually, we're not going to put the self, we're going to put the player. There we go, passing test. So now we can get player by ID, which that is kind of not tricky at all. Get player by ID, player, and actually I think we could probably get away with a describe block, which, darn, I don't get to do some of this stuff nearly enough. So we're going to say describe storing the player, do end, and we're going to grab that, put it there, put it there, and then we should be able to put that here. Oops. No, wrong way. And then this is going to be describe. Describe fetching the player, do end, and setup do end, and this will do essentially the same thing. We actually don't need this. Yank, put, and that's going to be our last thing. And we're going to need to player store player. And hopefully that's the right syntax. Okay, good. Now we're going to do player store, insert this, get player, and we're going to get the player.id, and this should equal the player. Beautiful. And here we're going to say spec get player, and this will give us a integer, and this will return us okay, or no, return us a player or nil. And let's check that. Nil is not a type. So at type nil is equal to nil. Seems to be okay with that. The cat has spotted a bee. I'm very proud of her. She's usually not that capable. So we've got here, we can get our player signaling process, where it is player underscore player ID. Okay, and then we also need to test return nil if player not found, and assert player store get player -1 equals nil. And we get player ID that gives us the player ID, but does not get us the player itself. So kind of overstepped that. Because there is no way for the process to give us the player. So what we could do is return us a PID, and that will be okay. PID. Oh. This will be, we don't have a PID for this, so we can do player PID is task start link function receive do and that's our PID player PID. And this will give us our, you know what, I do want the player. But I can't have it. So this is kind of janky. The problem we have is that we have no way of updating the player. And so maybe that's better that we keep it, we still create a gen server out of this. So that we can still fetch the player and update the player data appropriately. Or maybe the player itself is the gen server. And that actually might be better. Yeah, I think that is better. The player itself would be the gen server. So this would still return a PID, so we can say player.PID and missing end, of course it did. And that gives us an okay PID, so we want to change that because we do that all the time. And we are getting two different PIDs. Probably because we store it here. And so we need to do player.pid. And link that, put it there, PID, player, PID. storing the player, store the player. And this is wrong, so we're going to do player.pid. There, we got our green. So we need to get our PID by socket. That's actually going to be super tricky because we need to be able to... You're so mean. Whoa, I've never seen her jump so well. You've just ruined her life. I'm proud of you. So the problem is getting PID by socket is we have no way of actually iterating the list. So if we go back to this, and think about the way we're taking this approach, and this approach is actually correct. We're just not doing it right. So we actually need to we're always in our current PID. So this was correct. We don't want this. We want this. We were right the first time. So we don't want this here. And this is still the same. So now we're gonna have a bunch of failing tests again. That's fine. And here, player, register self. So that'll restore that test. Yep. And then here, we always know our self. And so we're just going to say process get player. That's not the test we want. That's not the command we want. And in fact, we don't even need an integer. We'll just say get player. And this will never happen. See here, so we don't need PID anymore, we get the player. Get player 1, line 29. We pass it nothing, and we get our player. Better. Here we go. So now get PID by socket gets slightly tricky because we need to associate PID with socket. Fetching player information. Should get player. Okay. Now test associate with socket. Player. Socket is that. In fact, we need a port. Is there a way to just create a port? How can we just make a port? Looks like we can. Name. The supported values are spawn and command. Run a internal program. A loaded driver. In line with the compiler. Doesn't actually tell us. File descriptors used by earlier standard input and standard output. Command close. Erlang ports. Take a look at this. Or binary. I think we're actually okay with this. The dialyzer will not know any different. So we go here, add spec, associate PID with socket, and we're going to give it a port and return OK. And now get player by PID. That's not really a thing. Is that a thing? I think we can make it a thing. To pass some message. Anyways, okay, so assert player store associate PID with socket or socket, and that gives us okay, but we're going to need to be able to get the socket. So we need a def get socket do, and this is going to be process get socket assert player store get socket equals socket, and the spec here, spec get socket, is going to be that, and this is going to return a port. And let's return, did not return OK. And now that's not being stored. So lastly, we're going to say process put player, I'm sorry, socket in the socket. There we go. Just found a major downside. Is if we're not in the current process, we're not able to get the player. But we can always get the PID, so that's okay. It's kind of a chicken and an egg situation. So it sounds like we're going to need to, so it's like basically we're storing the connection information about the player, but we're going to also need to store the player, like gen server, to store the other information about him, about the player. So still might be okay if we store the player. So this is, I guess the important thing to understand is that this is not the player store, this is more like the association between the connection and the player, and that we cannot get that otherwise. So most of these functions left is something that we really can't use. Get player by PID because we already know our PID. Moving the player doesn't make sense. Get PID by socket. So all these things don't really work. So now we have the player, we do need the PID. So this still makes sense. So we go back here, so we do have passing tests here. Now the important part is name server, it's the socket acceptor, which I haven't brought over yet. Dialyzer. And it seems to have some preconceived notions about process as well. That's okay. So we need to sort of think about how we want to handle this stuff. See, function process module process is not available. Alright, that's it for today. See you guys this weekend. Or actually, after the weekend. Happy coding.